After finding out about season 10 being unofficially confirmed by Actra Toronto, my mind has been racing with thoughts and storylines for the next season. So I've attempted to somewhat neatly pack all my ideas into one for this video. Everything I say in this video isn't necessarily predictions. We know zero information about season 10, so it's clearly impossible to predict what may occur, but with understanding season 9, using media literacy, and also just by having fun creating plots, I've been able to create plausible story arcs for season 10. This video is more about my hopes, and how I would personally write the next season of TNS, while staying true to how the show presents itself. Since we ended season 9 with Michelle and Eldon wanting to buy the studio from Nick, let's also begin season 10 there. Right from the get-go, Nick is trying to decide whether he should sell the studio or not. It is established that Nick loves dancing as an art form and as a sport, but he can't dance, so instead he bought the Next Step studio to surround himself with amazing dancers, which is sweet and shows how much love he has for it, but it makes me think, what are his passions actually? Like, we know he likes baking, but as a business owner, what is he really looking for? I think Nick in season 10 could really battle with feeling unfulfilled running the studio. Not because he feels useless and doesn't have enough expertise to run big dance-based things like auditions on his own, but because maybe he realizes he is pushing away what he as an individual really wants. I'm not sure what this thing would be, but I think he would listen to himself and decide to hand over the studio ownership to Michelle and Eldon. Of course, I'd want his send-off to be somewhat similar to Michelle's send-off in season 7. Less of a party setting though, but still keeping those same sincere feelings. Nick, from what I've seen, is a really well-liked character, and seeing him leave now would definitely pull at a lot of people's heartstrings. And in saying this, Michelle and Eldon will then own the Next Step dance studio. But I'm praying that these two won't, or haven't already got together. I have very strong feelings about these two, and how season 9 ended, and they are not positive, but I've made this very clear in the past, so I won't dwell on it right now. Kenzie would also be questioning whether she should leave the Next Step. At the end of season 9, she stated that she didn't want to stop competitive dance, but to me, it seemed like her unwillingness to go was stemmed from the fact that Camille manipulated her into auditioning for Freya's tour. If I was writing season 10, I would have her weigh out the pros and cons of leaving TNS. With Pete encouraging her to take this chance and kickstart her dance career, she would realize that, even though she doesn't like how this opportunity came around, it would be a colossal mistake to not accept Freya's offer. Her exit would also be really upsetting. She went from being given nothing in season 6 and 7 to literally being one of the most pivotal characters in the Next Step. All her evolution has been building up for this moment, for her to leave the Next Step and find well-deserved success outside of the studio. As for her and Pete, they would not break up and agree to go long distance. The Next Step does really not like keeping characters together long distance. It would be nice to finally see a long distance relationship that actually works out. We saw how good Pete and Kenzie were together even when Kenzie was on the exchange program. I think they would be able to bear this distance and time apart just as well. But knowing how TNS deals with long distance relationships, and how much the writers love drama, I would also provide a juxtaposition to Pete and Kenzie, with Heath and Pascal. At the start of my season 10, Heath and Pascal are confirmed to be dating, but obviously, Pascal has to go back to France. In season 9, she states that she doesn't really want to be part of L'Equipe Étoile anymore, after she realized she was being used by Marianne. Instead, she goes back to France for her family and friends. She could maybe be physically present at TNS, or with Heath in the first few episodes, but no more than that. They would find the distance hard to manage, but they would try their best. And I don't want my Heath to suffer anymore, so I would make them end game still. They are great together, and there is no reason as to why distance is a good enough explanation in the writer's room to end relationships just like that. Like, let's explore the complexities and struggles of being in a long distance relationship without the characters just giving up or cheating on one another. I'm also open to the idea that maybe Pascal flies back to Canada and auditions for a troupe if she really wants to be on a team again. As long as her and Heath stay together, I'm happy. Mentioning France, Ethan would obviously have to leave a troupe to do his summer dance program. I think before it's time for him to leave, he could also have second thoughts about going, just like Kenzie and Nick. Ethan had always been really separated from a troupe. I've noticed that the queer characters in the Next Step often get kind of excluded from interactions with their A troupe members. It feels like they are in their own bubble, and that includes Ethan during season 9. So in my season 10, just because of circumstances, Ethan gets involved with his teammates more than he has before. We get to see him be friends with A-troopers we've barely seen him interact with, and be shown that the team provides a safe space for him. Maybe someone could even mention Gil. Just something that shows that he is appreciated and acknowledged within A-troop. That would make him rethink his decision to leave the studio, and would show that it is harder for him to walk away from this team despite being a very determined and ambitious character. And just like the others, he would also leave TNS, knowing he made the right decision. I think what would make his goodbye even sweeter is if someone said to him something along the lines of, "You will always have a spot on A-troop," because yes, he's leaving the team and won't be able to compete with them, but he is also only going for the summer. He always has an opportunity to go back if he wants, which is a very heartwarming sentiment to send his character off on. My storyline for Ebby isn't solid, but does make sense with the context of season 9. I think after what happened with Remy and her jeopardizing the team's chances at internationals, she would start becoming paranoid about people, thinking that everyone just wants something from her. She is stuck in this cycle of thinking she is going to hurt her team again, that she begins to have trust issues, even with people in the studio and on A-troop. We would almost see the guilt consume her. She thinks even though all this time has passed, and in the TNS10 internationals despite what she did, that people no longer see her as reliable. She believes that people distrust her so much that she herself starts to distrust her teammates and friends out of fear. Fear of being seen as a traitor or fear of being used again. With Ethan gone, both Izzy and Niall have lost a friend and a mentor. Izzy, inspired by everything Ethan has taught them, decides it is their goal to excel at contemporary dancing and aim for the gold. They want to become one of the best technical dancers in A-troop. They ask Niall to help them, to which Niall agrees. He has been feeling lost now that Ethan has left and Ebby is separating herself from her friends. In season 10, he will be battling with his loneliness and feeling like an outsider because of his young age. So he takes this opportunity to not only to help Izzy with their contemporary, but also become friends with them, and that they do. As for Izzy, I really want them to be in a romantic relationship this season. I said this in my comment under part 1 of my TNS season ranking video, but I feel like Izzy has not been written to be in a relationship, simply because the writers don't know how to go about having a non-binary character be involved with another character, which is understandable. In the real world, it is an extremely varied experience. It can be tricky to put things like this into practice in a children's show, because you don't want to overcomplicate the writing. So I get it, but they should treat it like how they treat every other relationship on the show. Izzy has always been the one to give relationship advice to others. It's about time they received some relationship advice themselves. For Jett, I want to dive into her backstory more. They showed the possibility of her having a similar storyline to Chloe and Heather, struggles with money. Yet, this was not explored last season at all. I think the writers may have scrapped this plot of hers, since they've done it 2 times before, and though I think it was a good idea to scrap it, I still want closure. Maybe in season 10, there could be a one-off line about how her mum got a higher income job at whatever medical vicinity she works at, and that paying for dance isn't something Jett has to worry about now. Something just to give us a clear ending point for that plot instead of leaving it unmentioned. Or more interestingly, this could do the opposite. Because of having a higher paid job, her mum has to work those required amount of hours, which means Jett has to babysit Bobby, her younger brother, even more often than before. They don't want to waste that new income on hiring babysitters, so Jett has to step up. It could even happen so much that it jeopardizes her spot on the team. She is missing rehearsals to look after her sibling. This plot may sound a little dramatic for what it is, but Jett nearly had to literally miss nationals because she had to babysit. It is not at all far-fetched conflict. It is clear that there were almost consequences because of this, and I don't see any harm in bringing this particular story element back. I do honestly think though, that most of Jett's screen time in season 10 is just going to be her and Ariana getting closer. After Ariana confessed and proved her way back onto the team, we saw them make up and regain some of that chemistry they had earlier in the season. Of course I want Jett as well as Ariana to have substantial plots next season, but I do think a lot of their screen time will incorporate each other, which I'm really excited to see actually. As much as I hate it, I'm almost 100% sure Grace is going to have a redemption and be on A-troop in season 10. I don't want that to happen, but it's basically set in stone. However, I really hope they explore Ariana's and Grace's dynamic. I know Ariana will be more forgiving towards her, especially because she had to go through that same process of earning A-troop's forgiveness, but I still want so much animosity between them. While I believe Grace's entire, if not majority of her plot next season will be to correct her mistakes, Ariana will have other storylines going on. As I said, her and Jett will become even better friends. She will fully mend her friendship with Adele and also audition to become dance captain again. I've written a whole section on how I personally want this plot to go, so I won't give too much away, but I will say she doesn't get DC. Instead of crying over it, she works on improving her dancing. I almost imagine her going through a similar change in character like Michelle did in season 4. Olive would audition to become dance captain as well but also not make it. In the meantime, she could maybe have a storyline where she feels like she is getting further away from Ariana, since Ariana's taking time to forgive and help Grace adapt to being on a troupe, and because she's also spending a lot of time with Adele to make sure that friendship never falls apart again, and to own up to her mistakes. Ariana is also hanging out with Jett more now. It could go so far that maybe Olive even feels she's been replaced as Ariana's best friend. Olive is so kind-hearted but so far, she has been so one-dimensional. Let's add a bigger conflict, let her embrace her jealousy again, and for way longer. I would love to see all these more complex sides to her. Honestly, I really have no idea what plot to give Adele other than her and Ariana being friends again. I really don't want her and Anthony to have any clashes. Like, can we please just have a happy couple? There is always at least one character in a troupe that gets pushed to the side each season, and I don't want that to be her, especially because she plays an important role when it comes to disability representation in the next step. If any of you have a conceivable plot for her, please let me know. I just think she'll be somewhat involved in almost every character's plot, just so that she is still present and not left out. An overarching plot for part A of season 10 would definitely be the fight for dance captain. This is how I would write it. Anthony is dance captain. Everything's great, Eldon's not in his way and everyone listens to him. But he realizes the team doesn't respect him as much as they still respect Kenzie, the ex-dance captain. He tries to teach himself how to be more like her, to be more no-nonsense and confident, even trying to not so subtly get advice from Kenzie to attempt to, in his understanding, better himself. After multiple trials and tribulations, he realizes it's not possible. He leads how he leads, and that he can't keep comparing himself to Kenzie. Instead, he wants her to join him. He asks her to be co-captains, but as I said earlier, Kenzie is conflicted about going on tour. She doesn't give him an answer, needing a few days to think about it. Over those few days, Anthony being Anthony, keeps prying Kenzie for a decision, making her way more stressed. It's only when Kenzie blows up at him in front of everyone, he stops. Feeling a mutual sense of guilt, they apologize to each other, and to his surprise, Kenzie has made a decision. Kenzie tells the team she is leaving to go on Freya's tour. It's a really sweet, but obviously sad scene for her and a troupe. Anthony expresses that he's disappointed they won't get to work alongside each other anymore, but that he is super proud of her and will make sure to follow all the advice Kenzie has written in the Dance Captain Diary. We end that scene with an emotional group hug. Eldon and Michelle speak to Anthony to see if he still wants someone to captain with him. He does, and with a suggestion from Eldon, the three of them start creating a dance captain audition plan. Regular classes obviously continue, and Anthony is hyper aware of his teammates. He thinks maybe they can choose a second dance captain without an audition. And he finds the perfect candidate. He goes rushing to the office to tell Michelle and Eldon that he wants Heath to co-captain a troupe with him. Little does he know, he hasn't kept the plans for the audition for dance captain under wraps as well as he thought he had. Ariana, Olive, Pete and Izzy have requested to take part in the audition. With so much enthusiasm from his teammates, Anthony doesn't want to disappoint them. It's the day before the dance captain auditions and Anthony is fighting for his life to convince Heath to join the audition. Heath is kind of annoyed with how much he is pressuring him into audition, until Anthony lays out the truth of why he wants him to do it. Being a senior member at TNS, being on good terms with everyone, his attention to detail, his dedication to dance, and his natural leadership qualities that Anthony had been observing. It's audition day, and to his relief, Heath is auditioning. They do a load of tests for dance captain, but not like whatever the frick was happening in season 9. Anthony, Michelle, and Eldon are all split on which dancer would make a good and complimentary second DC, except for one. They all vouch for Heath, and he gains the dance captain title. TLDR, we missed out on Kenzie and Anthony being co-captains, so I want Heath to become the other DC instead. I think after all Heath has gone through, and the amount of character development he has had, dance captain would be the ultimate goal for him in terms of the studio. But I love Anthony as dance captain, so the best option for me was to have them lead the team together. So these were all my personal hopes for season 10. Please remember that everything said in this video is not confirmed or even predictions, just how I would write season 10. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please tell me in the comments what you want to see next season. Thank you for watching.